If different browser will show us the output at least. Yeah, this is working. Internet Explorer basically suppressed this message, okay? So Mozilla Firefox worked perfectly.
Chrome is also.
Sorry?
Chrome is very
Yeah, Chrome is okay. It might be differences in the browser. So again, what happens here is that the reason why it's not generic across the browser is that when I created HTML document, and this is essentially HTML document with a JavaScript, I didn't enforce the standardization. Doc type, that keyword doc type, when you see in the document, that basically enforces browser to be standardized, okay? I didn't use that, and if I don't use the standardization, browser is behaving as they like, okay, differently. Different browser behaving differently. So in the case of Internet Explorer, it rolls back to the default version 5.5. And that's what you see, the behavior of Internet Explorer 5.5. Okay, that's why we don't see the answer. But anyway, we are going to improve this code. I just like to make sure that it's a working code. And you realize that testing in this case is much easier now, correct? What you need to do is you need to go back, see this text field, and then you can punch your values, whatever values you specify here, and then you get answer immediately. So essentially what we did, we enhanced testing drastically. We actually made testing very easy, okay? So instead of going and modifying the code, you simply have to punch up the values here, okay? Any of you try the value, so 15.5, right? 15.4999999, okay? This is very valid boundary case. I just wonder if anyone tried that. You can easily do it here, right, in this web interface. No? Okay, let's see. I type it myself. So 15.4999999, which is
less than 15.5. 15.999.
yeah, but it's technically speaking, it's not 15.5, right? So I should get a negative answer. That's what I'm saying.
It's like giving a negative answer.
But it says come with your legal guardian.
Yeah, not in mine.
You didn't put enough nines. That's what it is. I have plenty of them.
Still say sorry, you cannot take any courses.
Yeah, very good browser. 64-bit machine? Yeah, it's a 64. Okay. You don't see this glitch? You can put 29s. Okay. So this is actually not a JavaScript error. This is rounding error of the numbers. So this is acceptable. Plus, if you have, say, all these nines, it means that you are probably a couple of seconds before your burden for actually 15.5, you know. So it's not a big deal, okay? Anyway, is it working? And you have kind of an interface to test your values. It's much easier, okay? Next thing which you can do is you can write automated program which will keep punching the numbers here, right? And then you can test any number between -1 million, +1 million, you know, any single value between these two values automatically. You can start it, put it overnight, come in the morning, you see a lot of results, right? You don't need to do it manually, okay? Value of this test case would not be great because you need actually to test maybe say 10 or 15 values, not millions. But if you like, you can do that, okay? Now we're going to modify this code even more, so it'll be even easier. So right now this code is working in the case when you submit the form, and the form is submitted when you press Enter key. Okay, that's an indication that the form is submitted. I'm going to modify the code, adding push button, so that will be much easier. Instead of pressing Enter button, you pressing push button. So let's do that. So this is function call. Now we are going to modify the code which will work with the push button. So this you should supposed to have this code. And when this code is working, make sure that it's working. We are going to walk over this code. Okay, see how it's working. Better way, I mean, better version of the application. Okay, definitely because pressing push button is easier, right, than relying on the Enter key. Now it's time to go and analyze why is it working and how we actually obtain this value from the text field. So in our form, if you look at the HTML code, you will see that we have form. And in this form, we have two elements. Actually, they are here. We have a text field, type text. This is type text here. So because its type is text, it will create automatically a text field. And its value is, name is age input. This age input. So essentially, we have text field, which has the name age input. Observe here that this age input name is not visible in a browser. When you look at the browser, when we have text field and the push button, you don't see this age input. This is because it's supposed to be read by browser only, not by end user. And also we have a push button, which we may call it check eligibility. For example, says check eligibility, whatever. And this element is this one. Type submit will automatically create a push button. Okay. Now, all these elements are sitting in a form. These two elements sitting on a form. Form, it's in its turn, is sitting on document, because document is a major. So basically, we have this hierarchy, correct? And this is a document. Now, if I like to work with this text field or push button or whatever, I have to write a full path to this object. Okay. Otherwise, you may have push buttons outside of the form. You may have text fields, whatever. That will be a mess. If I like to work with this age input text field, I have to write full path to this age input. Now, if I write a full path, then the next action is I like to interact with that, right? I like to get the value whatever user inserted in this text field. Correct? But the very first step is just I have to write a full path. So that's what I'm doing. I'm saying document. Next will be name of the form, because I may have several forms, right? And the form name in this case is form 1. I'm saying dot form 1, exactly as in HTML code. I don't invent anything here. After that, I'm saying my text field, which is age input, right? This is the name age input here. This is age input. This is my full path to the text field. Okay. After that, I like to get it one of the properties, because text field has several properties. One of the properties, for example, its size, maximum length, whatever. But one of the property is text which it contains. That property is contained in using can be obtained using special keyword which is called value. Okay. This keyword value grabs this information and gives me. But if I don't have mechanism of storing this information, that value will be gone. Remember when we're talking about variables, I have to be able to store that in the variables. That's why I declare a variable which I call stewage over there. I'm saying stewage equals document form 1 age input value. In this case, I read this text field information, whatever is contained in the text field, and assign to the stewage. Now, I don't care. I can do whatever I like because I have this value at hand. If I have this value at hand, I can actually pass to the Java, keep going and working with this value, depending on what user entered. Okay? That's how it works. So we actually get full path to the, let me show that. This is the full path to the object using object names. You see that you have names for each object here specified. If you don't like names, you can use ID. They are interchangeable. It's basically, historically, we have two nomenclature for defining the objects. ID comes from Microsoft Word, and name comes from the Netscape Word. Okay, but my preference is a name. So I use names. That's why we have document, which is a top root element. Form 1 is the name for the form. This form is name of form 1. Age input is a name for the text field. This one, age input. Okay. If you're not happy with these names, go ahead and change them, but you have to change in here as well. Okay, whatever you change. And finally, the very last property, very last thing which I like to do, I like to use the property of the text field to get a value. It says a value actually retrieves me the property of the text field, which whatever value this text field contains, and then I can use this value whatever I like to. Okay, so that's how it works. Any questions?
Size is equal to 20, right?
Yeah, a size is actually specify the physical dimensions of the text field. It means that its actual size contains 20 characters.
More?
That will be bigger. Text field will be bigger. Yeah, absolutely. It should not be a problem. Also, you can specify max length property, which specifies how many characters you can type. Okay, that's also no problem. Yeah, recall that this is HTML code. This portion is HTML code. It's not JavaScript code. HTML does not control that. What you can change with HTML, you can control is it normal characters or a hidden password. Okay, but that's as much as you can do. Okay, so you cannot control that. And in this line, for example, when you use the value by default returns you anything in. Value is a string, not as a number. Okay. So you have to think about that as well. Okay, so value property is a string value. Doesn't matter what you inserted there. Okay, so that's as much as you can modify that. But this is generally working code, and this actually may facilitate testing drastically, because it's one thing you go and modify JavaScript code manually. Another thing is just a very nice interface when you can keep punching the numbers and getting answers. Correct? Any other questions?
Form ID is equal to form A.
Yeah, ID is form A, name is form 1. So essentially we use two systems to identify this form. The point of these variables, ID and name, are to uniquely identify the given form, because you may have several forms, right? But you should be able to identify them. So you have to use either one of the systems, either name or ID. Okay?
So we are using
we are using names, yes. But if you are not happy with that, you can go and use IDs, but you have to use IDs for everything else, okay? Otherwise, that will be collision, okay? So historically, we have these two systems, but we cannot do much about it, okay? I prefer names, but that's preference, okay? Go ahead.
Can we lose input ID, text on, no, problem.
Here?
Yeah.
You
The second row.
This one?
Text field, yes.
You can change this to anything you like.
Can I remove it completely?
IDs?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. No problem. Since we don't use them, that's okay. The point is that in this case, if you remove IDs, the names which are remaining should be unique across the objects. Otherwise, there will be controversy. So that's the only way for the server and browser to recognize who is who. Okay? Because you may have 100 text fields and 100 forms there, right? But you should be able to uniquely identify, because otherwise, if you don't know which one you are working in, you cannot retrieve appropriate information from there, and then it will be a mess. Okay? But in this case, I can, because I know that I'm retrieving age input, which is a text field, which is located on form, which is called form 1, name it form 1, which in its turn located on the document. This sequence actually reflects the hierarchy. It's exactly as is, but instead of written in a two-dimensional form, it's written in one line, like in one-dimensional. It's pretty much like the following. If you, let's see, let's go do that. So, let's see if I have something good example. Okay, you see that I have folder which is located on the C drive, and I have Intel, and I have logs. Okay, so this is two-dimensional diagram. This is a hierarchical form, and you see that it's pretty understandable what we are talking about, right? So you see this hierarchy: C, Intel, logs. Okay, but the same way, if I'm working from a command line, I can do the same. I can say CMD. For example, I can say CD Intel. CD logs, okay, for example. Now I'm located in the same folder, but this is kind of one-dimensional. It's one line, okay? So, but it doesn't matter, because it's uniquely identified the folder I'm working with, okay? This is simply hierarchy, and this is actually a reflection of this hierarchy, okay, exactly as this. Okay, pretty much the same with the JavaScript. You cannot use Windows Explorer kind of a big hierarchy put in the JavaScript, because it's one command per line, right? So you have to use this one-line version, kind of. Okay, if you draw parallels. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. 1, 2, 3, gone. Now this exercise. Okay. Remember, I asked you this. Do you have any questions? So what you need to have, what you have now, you have working code. Essentially, you have a code which gives you push text field and a push button, and whatever you inserted in the text field, actually we're running the code which validates user for DMV point of view. What you need to do, you need to modify existing code. It means that you may delete or add additional as needed in order to accomplish this exercise. So the second one is slightly advanced, slightly, not much. So you can probably prefer to first, third, and fourth, and then go back to this one. So the first one, you have to modify the code that whenever you put a name into the text field, like for example Peter or Alex, whatever, and then press a push button, then the browser should greet that person, say hello Alex, hello Peter, okay, something like that. And then browser should read, actually JavaScript should read the value from the text field, and then concatenate string and greet you. Okay, so and the third and the fourth would not differ much from the first one. Second one is slightly more advanced, but not much. Okay, let's try to accomplish this. Okay, so essentially we have to insert the username and then, and the name, and then that person should be greeted. This is the code. Okay. This is the code from a previous exercise when we were testing the eligibility from DMV, right? And remember, before starting the exercise, I said you already have existing code, you have to modify it. Guys, attention, please. Okay. So you can leave all names as is. The very first line, which says, not this one. Oh, sorry, this is not the correct one. Okay, so let me close this. Okay, and go to the next exercise, this one, with the push button, right? This is the code with the push button. Okay, so go paste. Essentially, you can leave as is the rest of the HTML code. This is the JavaScript code. Now, at this line, I'm reading value from the text field. Essentially, my variable stu_age now contains name of that person. I can change its name because stu_age is probably not proper name, so it should work anyway. I'm saying variable username. Okay, equals document form 1 age input value. Still, I'm able to retrieve the username using this syntax. Now, as soon as I have username, do I need to compare with the less than 15.5? No. 16, whatever. It means that I have to, I can effectively comment this code starting from here. So I'm highlighting the code which I'm commenting. This code is effectively commented. But I don't like to delete it because I may use it in the future, okay? But this code is not going to be executed anyway. So what I need to do, I need to greet this person. How I do that? I'm saying document write. Remember, there is a method write which will do the trick. And in write, I have to specify what exactly I'm going to say. I'm saying hello class username. That's pretty much it. And if you like exclamation mark at the end, no problem, we can do that too. So that's how it looks like. That's it. The very first line, you read the value whatever user provided in the text field. Second line is basically you greet that person. Next thing is to test it, right? Because this actually looks great, but it's not tested. Age input, no, everything is correct. Everything is correct. I save it as save as test for HTML. Both files. Now go to the test 24. Okay, welcome. So I'm saying Alex. It says hello, Alex. That's what it's supposed to do. So it's working. So this code I just delete. Okay, so it will be easier for you to see. Okay, I commented, but I decided to delete. So your code should look like this. It works. It should work.
What if it doesn't say?
It means that either you cannot read anything from here, it's incorrect, or this line is mistyped. So what do you have there?
I have the box. I need to.
So let's go and see what the third one is. Third one is this radius. Okay, we have to be able to calculate the circumference based on the radius. Okay. So let's go and do that. We've done this. Essentially, we need this actually. So what is the circumference? It's essentially the length of the circle, right? And the length of the circle depends on the radius. So for example, the bigger radius, the bigger circumference. But the formula, exact formula, is calculated as 2 times pi multiplied by radius, right? So that's the formula. So radius is provided by user. Pi is a constant. You multiply 2 by pi and then by radius, you'll get the answer. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm saying var circ equals 2 times multiplied by, instead in this case we will not username but radius. Okay, so I'm saying 2 times radius multiplied by roughly I can say 3.14, but if I like to get exact value I can say math.pi. Okay, whatever you prefer. After that, I already know the circumference, what the circumference value is. I can say, this I have to comment actually. Document write circumference is, and then you put the value of circ. That's it. Okay. The core of the code is there. It's basically what you change the calculations and then print it out. So next thing which we are going to do, we're going to test if this is working or not. Let's see that. We'll go back to the code soon. So I'm saying 10, so radius is 10. So if I click on this, that will give me 62.8 circumference. Okay, if it's 10 meters, then it will be 62.8 meters length of the radius. Observe here that where this 4 came from. 8 and then a lot of zeros and then 4. No, it looks a little bit strange because if you look at my code here, I multiply 314, right, by 10 by 2. So basically I multiply this 314 by 20, and I should not supposed to see that 4 at the end. You can do that on a calculator, multiply 314 by 20, and then you may see a lot of zeros, but not any number after zeros. So this looks very strange, right? This value looks very strange. This is actually rounding error because computer cannot store numbers with the arbitrary accuracy. Okay, so after some digit, it starts to round it. Okay, that's the rounding error. It should be 0, but it's 4. Okay, but since it's a very insignificant digit in our case, it definitely can be ignored. In a situation when you do very important calculations, like say, let's calculate how many digits it has. This is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 15 digits, okay, decimal. This is okay. But if your calculation is definitely important and every digit is important, then you have to take care of this, okay, because otherwise you'll get a big error, okay, in your calculations. So this is working, and this is the code for that. So based on this code, you can create a lot of other pages, like for example, complete the exercises, and then create mortgage calculator, for example, or as I did, I created a page which will generate random people. Like for example, let's have a look at that. Yeah, let's see, random person. Okay, this is the code which I created. This is the page which I created, and every time when I press this button, generate random personal data, random information is generated: date of birth, social security number, address, phone numbers, and so on. You see, this information is random, and it can be used for testing purposes. This page is actually on a Portnov/data page, which is called random person, next to the JavaScript presentation. So you can easily copy this page and use in your testing activities if you like. Okay, this is actually very useful because quite often you need to have random person actually some testing data. Okay, in this case you have random zips, random cities, phone numbers, whatever, okay, and states and so on. And then you can, as many times you click, you get every time you get a different person. Okay, said that. This is the code, and let's round up right now, okay, and then we'll continue next time because I think you are very, very tired. Okay, it's very difficult to comprehend the code right now, so hopefully next Friday you'll have more energy, okay, to digest the code. But what you can do, you can take this code home and play with that and analyze that. Okay, it's very interesting anyway, and they can modify the code so it will do different actions because the core is there.